And a pleasant Saturday morning to you, and welcome to the InWheelTime Car Talk Show. We are so glad to have you with us, and welcome. Just ahead, author Rick Shaffer and his book, An Incredible Decade of Speed at Indy. It's a new track record. It's a great book. We just had a little conversation with him before we went on the air, and great guy. You're going to really enjoy this interview. Jeff has Car Culture. His feature this week is going to be on four-wheel steering.
Yep.
Do they even make it anymore?
Yeah.
Mars has Off the Beaten Path, karting around the Houston area. That's Karting, not carding. Howdy, along with Mike Out of This World Mars. We always need more Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong. So glad that you could join us for our live version of the InWheelTime Car Talk Show. All right. Jeffrey, how have you been?
Good. We're like the black shirt gang this week. I had a wardrobe malfunction. My blue shirt was interfering with the internet, so we all went black. So there you go. But good. It's been a good week.
Once you go back, you never go back. That's what I heard.
Yep. Hey, went to Space Center Houston this past week, and it was awesome. If you're in Houston or if you're coming to Houston, you need to go see it. It is incredible.
Yeah.
It really is.
Mr. Mars, you survived the rains over there?
Yes, we did. We're starting to dry out a little bit.
Well, that's going to change again here.
So is it the whole county's going dry or just your city?
No, just this kind of
just the
two-block
Mars
area.
household. That's what it is.
We're going dry over here.
Well, let's get to our guest, shall we? He's been sitting around doing nothing, waiting for us to start the show, and let's just get right to it. His name is Rick Schaefer, and the book is It's a New Track Record, Decade of Speed, Indy 62 to 72. What a great decade. I don't know how you came up with that, but talk about a decade of speed. Let's talk about a decade of change. You go from front engine to rear engine, and my God, everything really changed in that decade, Rick.
Well, actually, there's a story behind how I came up with this idea. It isn't my idea. When my first book came out in 1999 on the first 20 years of the IndyCar series, and after I came out, a photographer friend of mine named Steve Stott, he said, "Hey, if you think you want to do another book, I got a great idea for you." And I said, "Well, what's that?" And he said, "Well, think of the years 62 to 72 and all the interesting cars, drivers, and teams that came through during that era." And I thought, that's a great idea. Well, unfortunately, Steve passed away in 2009, but I thought if I get this book written and get it published, I'm going to dedicate it to Steve. That's exactly what I've done.
So, you know what, the first thing that comes to my mind when it comes to that decade, Andy Granatelli, the STP team. Remember that?
Yeah. He was actually in 62, he brought the Novi back for the first time since the 50s. And they didn't make the race that year, but that's where he started out with Novis, and then he brings, he had the first successful Terman cars, and of course that Dayglow orange color they painted their cars, that was, they stood out. It was just, he was an incredible showman, and it was neat that, he was a major part of this era. So,
well, I'll never forget the team colors. Those white kind of jumpsuit things with STP stickers all over them.
Yeah, everybody had the STP stickers on your toolbox and on your notebooks and binders everywhere.
This was a wearable.
They look like gas station attendants.
No, they based them on, actually, that was the kind of short sleeve coverall that the European teams were wearing, but they just put their logo all over it. Andy himself, he had a regular suit made with entirely covered with STP.
Sure did.
So, so we understand how you got to write the book, but this isn't your first book, from what I understand.
Right, this is my fourth book on racing. So I after the current book, I got to co-author the Autocourse History of the 500 with Donald Davidson, and then my most recent book was, I always thought it'd be neat to do a book just with nothing but nondescript stories that weren't widely known, because so many of the 500 books have the same stories over and over again, same photos. So then I had an outfit called Coastal 181 published 500 on the Indy 500, and then of course this new book is from these people from England, wonderful people named Everworld Publishing Limited, and it was my first effort with them, so I've been very happy. They put out a beautiful product. I'd had some of their books before. I have a racing book collection of about 500 copies. So
wow,
500 copies. So in other words, we'll all get one. And
there's been 500 different titles actually. So
Oh, I see.
500 different books. Yeah,
I got
that's
you.
my library. That's my research center. So.
Well, hey, we're always looking for a freebie. Hey, you're a media guy. You know about that.
Oh yeah.
As a matter of fact, a little bit of background on Rick. He used to work for a very well-known newspaper there in Indianapolis, and he was also part of an Indy team. Tell us about that, Rick.
Well, when I decided it was time to leave my newspaper career, I had a chance to be the public relations director for a team called Bettenhausen Motorsports, and this was run by Tony Bettenhausen. He was the youngest son of the same name driver who was, such a standout in the late 40s and 50s, and I worked 6 years with him, and for the years my driver was the next Formula One driver named Stefan Johansson, who's now gone to be the manager of people like Scott Dixon and Felix Rosenquist. And we had a year with a French-Canadian driver named Patrick Carpentier, and in my last year with the team we had this wonderful Brazilian rookie named Castro Neves, and I always ask people, have you heard of this guy?
Yep.
But we formed a nice friendship from that, and when my previous book, he actually did the foreword. So naturally, when I did this next book, I had to get another full-time lawyer, so I was very blessed to have A.J. Foyt do that, and I told his publicist, I said, he's the only driver still living that was in all those races that I cover in that book, so that kind of put the deal over the top, I think.
Well, I'll tell you, I had the opportunity to actually have lunch with him one time several years ago. And, once you take off the anger and the competitive thing that he's got going on, the aura around him,
that's his
he's
business.
really a nice guy.
Yeah, the thing about Mr. Foyt is how you approach him. And I, being a rather shy person, I decided the best way was to go through the publicist, and that seems to always work. Anytime I've dealt with him, he's just been, extremely, cordial and accommodating. And actually, I'll tell you a little story. I used to write for a now defunct magazine called Vintage Motorsport, and I was doing a story on the 64 500. And so naturally I had to talk to him because he won the race. And we were at the Houston IndyCar race. And so he was finishing up breakfast. So I go on to his coach and I said, sure, you're finished? Yeah, come on back. And he said, do I know you? And I said, well, yeah, AJ, I used to work for the Star with Robin Miller. And he goes, well, hell, we've been friends for 30 years in Hamlin. That just broke the ice. Had a wonderful interview with him. So.
Well, I was quite surprised, pleasantly surprised. Really a nice guy, and I thoroughly enjoyed the interview. So let's talk to you about your book. So 62 to 72, 10 years at the Indy 500, and what really surprised you that you would point out to anybody that reads your book? Hey, be sure and check this section out.
Well, actually, overall, if you look at 1962. There were still skeptics that thought it was impossible to go at 150 mile an hour until Parnelli Jones goes out and breaks the track record. And 2 years later, Bobby Marshman had a practice lap at 160, so they jumped 10 miles over what was supposedly impossible. By the end of my era, 72, they're nudging the 200 mile an hour mark. And I mean, it's just the thing was, it was just, in those 11 races, you had the track record broken 9 times. So Tom Carney, of course, the track announcer, got to utter that famous, it's a new track record. And, it was just really quite an era for technology. You went from all front engine to rear engine cars by 1969. By 1970, every engine was turbocharged, and there were no limits. They were getting more than 1,000 horsepower, by the early 70s. And then the aerodynamics came into play. And, of course, with that, we also had slick tires for the first time. So, things like that. That's what really made this so special. It was just the different things that happened and the people, came and went.
So it makes me think of the question, what do you think of today's cars and today's technology? I mean, 240 miles an hour? Seriously? Somebody's going to get killed.
Well, interestingly, they've gotten safer as they've gotten faster. I know it doesn't sound like that'd be right, but, they've come up with a lot of ways. Probably the main thing that helped them safety-wise was when they went to the ground effects, they put the fuel tank behind the driver, so suddenly fire is no longer an issue that had once been. You see a fire in a car, it's usually the oil reserve tanks ignited. And, the materials, the carbon fiber is much better than the aluminum or than the honeycomb aluminum they use for the tubs. The helmets are better, the fire suits are better. And, of course, the Speedway was the first to use this, what they call the safer barrier, which is a really, you wouldn't think that it's cushioning the effect. So when they're hitting the wall, it's not like they're hitting solid concrete, not no give anyway. So, but they've had, and knock on wood, since 1982, they've had 3 fatalities of IndyCar drivers at the Speedway. So we're going on like a 23-year. The last guy that was killed was in a test. A promising rookie named Tony Renna had finished 7th the previous May. This was the fall of 2003, and they haven't had a fatality for an IndyCar driver since at Indianapolis anyway. And this track, there total like 43 drivers lost their lives there over the years. So,
Who was the grumpiest driver that you ever interviewed?
oh boy, that's a good question. I think I was pretty lucky. I didn't really run into a lot of the question is when you talk to this person. I mean, my first autograph was Al Unser when he was a rookie, and I was a little 12-year-old kid, and he talked to my brother and I like we were important. And when I went to the Star and ready to do my first Al Unser feature, I was warned, and now listen, he doesn't see you as a fan like he did when you were a kid. So he didn't like reporters. I think he got burned by a couple of people. So it was not the fun interview I thought it was going to be. But really, I've been really lucky that I haven't had any set twos with drivers. I think I've tried to be careful about when to approach them, and in the case of AJ Foyt, you're best served going. Some of them are better when you go through the publicist and said,
Yes.
shoving a microphone in their face and a notebook bothering. So.
Right. Well, I find it fascinating. Tell me about the changes at the Speedway now that the boss has taken over that Speedway, and there have been quite a few changes.
Yeah, we're still in the early part of this. He was really kind of hampered because when he bought the track, then COVID came along. So I'm not really sure all the things he's going to do. Now, I'm 73 years old, and I last 5 years I've gone to the race, not as a journalist, but as a fan again. And my brother and I, we sit on the top row, what they call the Vista stands in turn 4. So that's 44 rows up. And this year they put handrails in the aisles. And boy, for us, that was a wonderful little thing. You would think would be a big deal. It's a big deal to your average fan. But, Roger Penske, of course, he's noted for his immaculate-looking cars and crew guides and transporters. So, the Speedway wasn't really decrepit when he bought it, but, you can just see he's really making extra strides to make it even more professional-looking facility. And I'm biased. I think it's the greatest racing track in the world. So.
I've been there a couple of times, and I have to tell you that thoroughly impressed. And I've been to a lot of racetracks around, but there's something extra special about Indy. And it's a great, big, huge, long track. And if you're going to go pick a seat, well, good luck, because you're not going to see the entire track like so many are today, and that's the way that they're built. But when this thing was built, they didn't have all of the infield stuff going on like they do today to block the view.
Well, actually, they had a lot more trees in the infield, you'd think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the other thing was the grandstands were just single level, so it wasn't until after the war they put the double level grandstands on the front straightaway, and then of course the Vista stand I referred to, they're in all the turns now. They're a lot higher than the other ones ever had been. So, my top row is 44, and then some of them have an overhang with 2 more rows of seats.
Yeah, and they got a golf course.
So the track had to grow around the track, if you will, because the track, the race surface, is pretty much like it was, other than being fixed up and maintained. But sounds like the track itself grew around that.
What happened actually was when they were planning the track, they wanted to build a 5-mile long circle, and so the property they bought after they hired the engineer after they bought the property, and they get him together and they show him a map that's got the property, and it was 328 acres of farmland, so it was flat, and they told him this is what they want. Well, the problem was the configuration of the property was a mile long going north to south, half-mile wide, east to west. So it's like, do the math. Can you put a 5-mile circle inside a half-mile rectangle? Of course you can. So this engineer seized the moment, because he could see these guys are ready to sell this property and start looking elsewhere. And he laid out a 3-mile rectangle. That's the thing. It's not an oval. It's a rectangle with 90-degree rounded corners. And it was a 3-mile track that took up all the room. But then he realized he had not left any room for grandstands. And he said, "You did say you're going to have races, right?" And they said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, I need to shorten the track by 1/2 mile because we need to put the grandstands on the outside of what would be the front straightaway. And that 1/2 mile will give me enough room to do that." And so that's why the track is shaped like it is. And of course, the grandstands, I don't think they envision having them almost all the way around the entire track now. Now, the golf course came around in the late 20s. And what was funny was they originally were going to build an infield road course, but Carl Fisher, the main driving force among the founders, decided, let's make this an aviation automotive facility. So for a while, you actually had a runway that went diagonal between turns 1 and 3, and a large building inside of turn 2, which we call a hangar today. They call it an aerodrome. It was the biggest in the world at the time. So, and all that got demolished when the great aviator Eddie Rickenbacker bought the track and puts it in a golf course. So,
Well, a fascinating story. And listen, we could sit and talk to you for at least a day and picking your brain about Indy and the Indy 500 and the cars, the drivers, all of that. But the new book, it's a new track record, 1962 to 72, an incredible decade of speed at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The author, Rick Schaefer. And we certainly appreciate the time that you've spent with us today, Rick, and we wish you the best of luck. And hey, call us anytime, because we can talk to you about the book all we want, but we also like a fellow journalist, and I know that you've got tons of stories to tell.
We could meet him at Indy next year.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll meet you there. You can buy us a hot dog.
So.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. Rick, thanks so much again. Before you leave, I did want to mention to you, this is a tabletop book. Father's Day is coming up. And as you mentioned off the air, Rick, that go to just Google the book or Rick's name, and I'm sure that there are probably a dozen different places that you can get the book, and it would be a great one to have to give away to Dad.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And can I say one quick thing before we leave?
Please do, yes.
Okay, you were mentioning a four-wheel steering car.
Yes.
Well, Mickey Thompson brought one to the Speedway in 1967, and there's a picture of it on page 153 of the book. So.
Well, there's my segment. Thanks. Just ruined that for me. No, I'm kidding.
All right, Rick. Well, thanks again. We really appreciate you, and best of luck to you in the future, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Hey, just ahead, Jeff's Car Culture, four-wheel steering, as we just mentioned. Mars has go-kart tracks around Houston, and his driving destinations feature all that and more coming up right after this break on the InWheelTime Car Talk Show.
The Tex-Mex dining experience is defined by Lupi Tortilla, your destination for Texas's best beef fajitas and frozen margaritas. Since 1983, Lupi Tortilla has served authentic and time-tested recipes made with the freshest ingredients. Atmosphere is part of the award-winning experience at Lupi Tortilla, all developed in a little house near Highway 6 and I-10 in Houston. Visit any of the Lupi Tortillas and you'll see the same attention to detail in each and every location. Start your Lupi experience with queso flamiado and guacamole, along with a classic frozen margarita. Dine on famous Lupi beef and chicken fajitas or pepper shrimp brochette, or a fish or vegetarian entree, and finish with a scrumptious flan for dessert. Find Lupi Tortilla in Houston, College Station, Beaumont, Austin, San Antonio, and Dallas-Fort Worth. There's a Texas location near you. The recipes are authentic and time-tested. The ingredients always fresh. Lupi Tortilla. Eats pretty good. Apple or Android, InWheelTime Podcast can be found everywhere, on the stream and through downloads. Whether you're on the road or at home and searching for a fun car talk show, give InWheelTime a try. Honest new car reviews, fun, informative interviews with real car people, weekly automotive news, features like Jeff's Car Culture, Mike's Driving Destinations, all on InWheelTime. Check us out on SiriusXM Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or while you're shopping on Amazon through Amazon Music. InWheelTime.com has a list, so check us out. That's it for this podcast episode of the InWheelTime Car Show. I'm Don Armstrong, inviting you to join us for our live show every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and our InWheelTime.com website. Podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart Podcast, Podcast Addict, TuneIn, Pandora, and Amazon Music. Keep listening, and we'll see you soon. Time now for 7 racetracks worth visiting.
You got it.
So we looked at 7. I mean, we started looking at racetracks. There's racetracks all over the state, all over the country, different kinds.
But are they still open? That's the question.
Yeah. So this is more of 7 underrated U.S. racetracks that are worth visiting if you really decide you just want to go. Some people go to baseball parks and football stadiums. Go to racetracks. So one of them we want to talk about is Road America. Now this is a classic natural terrain road course.
Yep.
Yes. It's 4 miles. Goes through the hills and forests of Wisconsin. You got a lot of long straights, so you get a lot of speed up. Technical corners to make them slow down and try to maneuver around through the laps. But the thing about this track is there's a lot of fan freedom. There's a lot of places the spectators can roam big areas of the track to see it. And because of the elevation and the hills and stuff, you can get up and you can kind of see it. And then it's considered one of the purest road courses in North America. Now, another one I wanted to mention is the Virginia International Raceway. And this one has a lot of elevation changes, which is what makes it kind of work really different from everybody else. You got a lot of places you can get the speed, but they've got flowing corners. It doesn't have the really long, straight speed straightaways to where you're going to get up the maximum speed that you're going to get in a lot of places.
And what's the name of that place?
Virginia International Raceway. Now, it's called VIR. It's just, that's kind of the abbreviation for it.
I've heard of that one.
But it's Virginia International Raceway.
VIR, I've heard of VIR.
And it's considered one of the better driving tracks that's in the country. And because people go out there, they feel like it's more like a country club track,
right,
where everybody's it's not like real media heavy whenever people go out there. Then the other thing is going up to the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca. Now,
that's that's Laguna Seca.
But
WeatherTech is sponsoring it.
Exactly.
They're paying them a lot of money to have their name at the top of it.
And if you go look at any sign, it says WeatherTech. Anyway.
They're not spending any money with us.
No, I know it. But it's one of the things that it's famous for is because of it's got a corkscrew turn with a sudden downhill left-right sequence that drops several stories in elevation. So you really kind of drop down on it. Mm-hmm. I've never driven that track. I've seen the signs I drove by.
I've seen races on it.
But it's in the hills near Monterey, California. Got a lot of scenic views, so you get a lot of exciting racing. Fans can sit on the grassy hillsides and watch them, which is one of the things that make these tracks a little different. You're not parked your butt in the stands all day. You can actually get out and enjoy some of the outside of it. Another racetrack is going to be the Sebring International Raceway. It's one of the oldest and toughest circuits in North America, originally built on an old World War II airfield. So it's all got concrete surfaces that can get kind of rough and makes things really challenging for the cars and the drivers because it's going to eat on tires pretty hard as well as the car. Now, this is where you're going to find the 12 Hours at Sebring sometimes. I mean, that's a race that you can go there to see. And it's more like old school racing. So a lot of people like there going to that gritty atmosphere, racing tradition, and you can actually camp there. So if you're really interested in that, it's a really great place to go. It's bumpy, it's brutal, and one of the toughest tracks and for the drivers. The other one, the Barber Motorsports Park.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Wait, I'll skip the Mid-Ohio.
Uh-oh.
Where did Mid-Ohio go? Here it is.
It's in Ohio.
Yeah, it's in Ohio. Mid-Ohio is a technical layout track, and it flows through the wooded hills and elevation changes. And it holds major series like IndyCar series there. It's kind of a small track, but it's considered to be very technical. Then we'll go to Barber.
Barber
Motorsports Park is considered one of the most beautiful racing facilities. Why did it do that? In the world. The track, it's got a lot of grass, a lot of sculpted places around the circuit to kind of make it look really nice. Kind of a botanical garden area. It's got smooth pavement, flowing corners, so you get a lot of racing for motorcycles there and the cars alike. Actually also has the Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum on the site. So you get a combination of the two, including the Indy Car Grand Prix of Alabama. Road Atlanta is the last one that we're going to talk about right quick. It's known for its fast flowing layout, dramatic elevation changes, and got a lot of high speed, steep downhill run. The IMSA Sports Car Championship season runs through there, and they, again, fans like the classic feel of it, being able to sit on the grassy hillsides. being able to get to the areas where you can see the cars really well. And that is 7 racetracks that are much underrated and offer opportunities to go and see some different kind of racing and different feels to the track.
You know,
And a happy 4th of July to you. Time now for this hour's car review. Had a chance to drive the 2026 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Whew, this thing has got an interior like you wouldn't believe. Here are the available trim levels: the Laredo X, the Laredo Altitude, the Limited Reserve, 85th Anniversary Edition, and the Summit. I happen to have the L for long, Summit 4x4. This is a standard SUV, seat 6 in this particular configuration in 3 rows. You can get a bench seat in the second row if you want, but that does away with the console, and I think I would prefer the 3-row all buckets. Anyway, 5th generation. It was all new in 2021, so it is 5 years old as far as the design is concerned. It is updated this year. Exterior features, one of the best looking SUVs in the market, in my opinion, with a modern 7-slot grille, typical for Jeep. Conservative design throughout the body. Squared off wheel openings contributes to its off-road demeanor. The rear hatch and lighting, very familiar, traditional look. What I liked about it, the overall design, very conservative, but it's ready to go, and I think that if you like conservative designed SUVs, you're going to like this one. What could use improvement? It is ready for a more modern exterior update. Now, some bits and pieces have been actually redone for this particular year, so it has been updated, but ready for a little bit more modern design, I think, overall. Interior highlights, one of the most beautifully designed interiors on the market. Infotainment screen is not so intuitive as the outgoing model. Overall, seating is roomy and comfortable on the inside. Available second-row screens will entertain the passengers like your 13-year-olds that you're toting around. Cargo, well, it's third row up, still allows for some storage back there. Not a lot. Put the third row down and you got tons of room. What I liked about it, pretty much everything on that interior. Quality materials, fit and finish, design elements, it's all there. What could use improvement? New operation system for the infotainment is not as intuitive as the old one. I like the old one a little bit better. You'll get used to it. It took me a while, and it's just a little bit different and more modernized. It has a 2.0-liter Turbo 4 with a start-stop feature on it, which they could do away with, but helps the gas mileage. Horsepower, get this, 324 horses out of this little 2-liter Turbo 4. Torque, 332, 8-speed automatic transmission with a tow rating of 3 tons, 6,200 pounds. That's significant. As far as miles per gallon, 20 in the city, 25 on the highway for a combined of 22. I got 21.1 miles per gallon, a lot of highway driving I did, over 413.7 miles. What I liked about it, well, on paper, the Turbo 4 with 324 horses looks enticing. However, the turbo lag can be significant in certain scenarios, and it grabbed me for several times while I was driving it the week that I had it. And if you're not an aggressive driver, maybe you're good with it, but I think it's something for Jeep to look into. Ride and handling, the air ride suspension is a definite must-have. Makes it smooth as glass as far as ride and handling is concerned. It is an option on lower levels. On this top-of-the-line model, it is all there included in the price. What could use improvement? Nothing as far as ride and handling is concerned. Now, I didn't take it off-road. If that's what you're looking for, only the Land Rover can compete, in my opinion, and it's a lot more expensive. This is an off-road vehicle. Jeep knows how to do off-road, and maybe this is right up your alley. Okay, here comes the pricing. Base trim price, $62,195. Now remember, this is top of the line. Price is tested, $72,770. That's a lot. Base model price, however, you can get into one of these for $40,415. That's more like it. Now, the competitors include the Hyundai Palisade. It's at $39,435. That's where it starts. Also, the Toyota Grand Highlander starts at $41,860. All very competitive there. And then the Honda Passport jumps up to $44,950 as the starting price. So there are your three, but there are more, obviously. But those are the three that I picked for you to give you some comparison. And that's my review of the 2026 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Next week, I'll review the Land Rover Range Rover Hybrid, and I think that you're going to like that one as well. And that's this week's car review. I'm Don Armstrong. Thanks for joining us. Dora and Amazon Music. Keep listening, and we'll see you soon.